The moment she pointed toward the security desk and ordered them to remove the poor single dad from the company lobby, nobody could have imagined that she was humiliating the one man who had the power to fire her before lunch. He stood quietly beneath the towering glass entrance of Sterling Global, holding his 7-year-old daughter's hand, wearing a faded gray jacket, worn jeans, and old shoes that had clearly seen better days. His daughter looked nervous as wealthy executives walked past them, but her father kept a gentle smile on his face. What the woman in the expensive black suit did not know was that the man she considered an embarrassment had secretly purchased the entire $30 billion company only days earlier. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness matters more than money, and that everyone deserves a second chance regardless of how they look, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to SoulTales. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories about kindness, family, and unexpected second chances. Now, let's return to the moment everything was about to change. Daniel Carter had spent the last 6 years raising his daughter, Emma, alone. His wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him with a little girl who had become his entire world. Daniel had learned how to braid hair, pack school lunches, attend parent meetings, and work long hours without ever letting Emma see how exhausted he was. He had also learned something else: people often judged a man by what he owned instead of what he had survived. Daniel had once been a successful technology entrepreneur, but after his wife's death, he stepped away from the public world to focus on his daughter. During those quiet years, he invested wisely through a private holding company and built a fortune that almost nobody knew existed. He still lived simply because money had never been the thing that made him feel rich. His daughter did. That morning, Daniel had come to Sterling Global because he had finally completed the acquisition of the company. His lawyers had advised him to arrive with executives and security, but Daniel refused. He wanted to see the company as an ordinary visitor before revealing his identity. He wanted to understand the people who worked there, the atmosphere they experienced every day, and whether the company still had the human values that had once inspired him to invest in it. Emma had asked to come with him because she had a school project about businesses, and Daniel thought it would be a good chance to spend time together before taking her to school. The woman who approached them was Victoria Hale, Sterling Global's acting CEO. She was brilliant, ambitious, and feared throughout the company. Victoria had built her reputation by demanding perfection, and over the years she had become convinced that appearances reflected competence. When she saw Daniel standing near the reception desk, she immediately assumed he was someone looking for charity, employment, or perhaps a favor. His daughter's backpack and his inexpensive clothes only reinforced her judgment. She walked toward them with a cold expression and asked why they were in a restricted corporate area. Daniel calmly explained that he had an appointment with the executive office, but Victoria barely allowed him to finish. She told him that important meetings were not held for people who simply walked in wearing old clothes and carrying a child's backpack. Emma lowered her eyes, embarrassed by the attention. Daniel noticed immediately. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder and told her everything was fine. He could have ended the situation in seconds by revealing his identity, but he chose not to. He wanted to see how people behaved when they believed there was nothing to gain from being kind. Victoria, however, continued. She accused him of pretending to have an appointment and told reception to verify whether someone had made a mistake. When the receptionist nervously confirmed that Daniel Carter was indeed scheduled to meet the board, Victoria assumed there must be another Daniel Carter. She demanded security be called. The lobby became painfully quiet. Employees stopped walking and began watching. Daniel stood there without anger, while Emma held his hand tighter. One security officer approached reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Daniel looked at him and simply asked him to wait. Then he looked down at his daughter and saw tears forming in her eyes. That was the moment Daniel's heart broke, not because he had been insulted, but because his daughter had just watched someone treat her father as if he were worthless. Daniel knelt beside Emma and reminded her of something he had told her many times: never measure a person's value by their clothes, their house, their job, or their bank account. A person's character was revealed by how they treated people who could do nothing for them. Emma wiped her eyes and nodded. She did not understand why her father was staying so calm, but she trusted him. Then the private elevator opened. Sterling Global's chairman, chief financial officer, legal counsel, and several board members stepped into the lobby. They had been waiting upstairs for the new owner. The chairman looked across the room, saw Daniel, and immediately hurried toward him. The entire lobby froze when the chairman respectfully greeted him as Mr. Carter, the new owner of Sterling Global. Victoria's face changed instantly. She stared at Daniel, then at the chairman, then back at Daniel. Her confidence disappeared as the truth finally reached her. The poor-looking single dad she had tried to remove from the building was not a stranger. He was the billionaire investor who had purchased controlling ownership of the $30 billion corporation. The man she had publicly humiliated was now the person who could decide the future of her career. But Daniel did not punish her immediately. Instead, he asked the chairman to take the executives upstairs. He remained in the lobby with Victoria for a moment. She apologized repeatedly, explaining that she had misunderstood the situation. Daniel listened quietly. Then he asked her one question that made her completely silent. If he had actually been poor, would that have made the way she treated him acceptable? Victoria had no answer. Daniel told her that money could buy buildings, companies, cars, and influence, but it could never buy character. He explained that his daughter had watched everything, and that the lesson she learned that morning would matter more than any business decision he could make. He did not fire Victoria. Instead, he gave her an opportunity to change. He required every senior executive to participate in a new company initiative focused on employee dignity, fair treatment, and support for working parents. He also created a foundation through Sterling Global to help single parents struggling with housing, childcare, and education. Months passed, and something unexpected happened. Victoria changed. She began visiting employee departments without an entourage. She listened to workers who had previously been invisible to her. She learned the names of janitors, receptionists, drivers, and cafeteria workers. She eventually met Daniel's daughter again at a company charity event. This time, Victoria knelt down and apologized directly to Emma for making her father feel small. Emma smiled and accepted the apology. Daniel watched from across the room, realizing that the greatest victory had never been owning a $30 billion company. It was seeing someone who had once judged another human being by appearance learn that every person carried a story invisible to the world. Years later, Sterling Global became known not only for its billions in revenue but for the way it treated ordinary people. Daniel remained one of the wealthiest men in the world, yet he still wore simple clothes, still packed his daughter's lunch when he could, and still believed that wealth meant very little if it could not be used to make someone else's life better. And whenever Emma asked her father why he never told Victoria who he was that morning, Daniel always gave her the same answer, because he wanted her to understand that kindness should never depend on knowing someone's bank balance. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder not to judge people by appearances, and subscribe to SoulTales for more stories about kindness, family, forgiveness, and second chances. And before you leave, I have one special request. Comment, "Kindness matters," if you believe every person deserves respect, no matter what they wear or how much money they have. Because sometimes, the person standing quietly in front of us is carrying a story we know nothing about. And sometimes, the greatest test of character comes when we believe there is absolutely nothing to gain by being kind.